Sorry, Miss Maxwell, I can't. The classroom was dead quiet because Thompson, 13, wouldn't sit down. The next thing that happened would alter Westside Middle School for all time. The cocky teacher put a hard calculus problem on the board to make him feel bad about herself. Little did she know that she was about to let out a mathematical genius who had been quietly being abused by her. She told me with a mean smile, "This is a calculus problem for my advanced placement class in 11th grade." But why did Thompson stand there? What dark truth was about to come out? Please don't miss this powerful story about justice and hidden ability. In addition, if this is your first time reading my story, I kindly ask that you write down where you are reading it. If you don't want to miss the updates of my new stories every day, subscribe to this channel and press the bell icon right now. Thanks, and now let's hear the whole story. Thompson rushed into Ms. Maxwell's math class, even though it was already 9:15. Class, he was having a hard time breathing. His backpack was tight against his ribs. V. Maxwell's voice cut through the classroom like ice as she said, "Late again, Thompson." She pointed to his empty spot with her thin lips pressed together in disapproval. Thompson stopped, his eyes darting around the room nervously as he said, "Sit down right away. Ms. Maxwell, I'm sorry. Could I please stand up for today's lesson?" Veronica's face turned red with anger as her eyebrows went up. "Without a doubt not. Yeah, we'll sit down like everyone else." "But Ms. Maxwell," Thompson began to explain, but his voice was hard to hear. "You're back." Veronica's tone of voice got mean. A few of the kids laughed. "Is that your reason for today? Right off the bat yesterday there was a family problem. Now you're back." Thompson's hands got a better grip on his backpack. Veronica hit him with a ruler last week as a punishment for bad posture, and the pain from that still made sitting unbearable. But who would do you believe him? I told you to sit down. It was Veronica who hit the desk with her hand. Thompson jerked, but he stood his ground. The class went dead silent when someone said, "I can't, Ms. Maxwell." The corners of Veronica's eyes got very narrow. "Well then," she said, and her voice became so calm that Thompson felt sick to his stomach. "Since you're so cool today, maybe you'd like to show us how cool you really are?" She erased the 8th grade math problem from the whiteboard and was changed to complicated math and symbols that Thompson had never seen in their class. She told me with a mean smile, "This is a calculus problem for my advanced placement class in 11th grade. You think you're too smart to follow simple directions, so maybe you can figure this out while standing up?" The whole group laughed out loud. The class clown Zach made a loud boo-hoo sound. Veronica looked at her watch and said, "You have 5 minutes. Or it goes right to a week of detention." He looked at the board with a heavy heart, beating, but he felt something else beneath his fear, getting noticed. It turned out that the marks weren't so strange after all. Every Tuesday and Thursday night for the past year, Thompson sneaked into Westside Public Library while his friends played video games or went through social media. It's not for the newest comic books or books for young adults, but for something that would have shocked everyone who thought they knew him. "Thompson, come." "Back again, Mrs. Doyle." The old person. He would walk right into the math area and be greeted by the librarian with a knowing smile. Thompson became interested in numbers when he was 7 years old. His dad, a builder who never finished high school, had been outside measuring for a home job. "Math is the language of everything, son," he had said. "Numbers always make sense, even when people don't." Thompson lived with his parents and younger sister in a small apartment. His mother worked 2 shifts. His mother worked as a nurse's aide, and his father did any construction work he could find. They didn't have time to go to school events, which made Veronica Maxwell think they weren't involved parents. What Ms. Maxwell didn't know was that Thompson's bedroom walls weren't covered with basketball posters or superhero movies. They were covered with printouts of mathematical theorems and famous equations he found online. 3 months ago, Thompson had found someone had left an advanced calculus textbook on a library table by accident, and Thompson was immediately drawn to its beautiful curves and logic. At first, the symbols were scary, but Thompson quickly learned that they followed patterns he could understand. He taught himself the basics of calculus using free online videos and math forums. Working on problems late at night by the dim light of his phone so as not to wake up his sister in their shared bedroom. When his tired mother called for dinner, He quickly hid his math notebooks under his bed, not because he was embarrassed, but because he didn't want his parents to worry that he was working too hard. One time, his dad caught him and asked, "What's all this, son?" he asked, picking up a notebook full of equations. "Just things I'm learning," Thompson said nervously. His father looked at the notebook in silence, then looked at Thompson with not expected pride. "You keep going." After that, Thompson's parents quietly supported his interest in math. His mother brought home used math books from the hospital's charity drive, and his father calculated measurements out loud during weekend projects and invited Thompson to double-check his work. No one at school knew about Thompson's math interests. He was just another student who wasn't seen unless he was in trouble. But now, Thompson was in front of Ms. Maxwell's class, staring at an 11th grade calculus problem that was meant to make him look bad. His secret was about to be revealed. The classroom was dead quiet, with only the ticking of the wall clock breaking the silence. 25 pairs of eyes were fixed on Thompson as he stood still and stared at the whiteboard. Several students smiled, knowing that Thompson had been the target of Veronica Maxwell's public humiliations before. It was Thompson's turn. 4 minutes left, Veronica said loudly, her voice dripping with satisfaction. "Maybe this will teach you to come to class ready and follow the directions." Thompson barely heard her because his mind was racing, connecting patterns and formulas he'd studied in secret. The problem was a complicated integration requiring substitution. Tough, but not impossible. His heartbeat slowed as he got a better picture of the math. He walked up to the board with trembling fingers and wrote. There was a lot of laughter when someone whispered, "Oh, he's actually trying." Veronica leaned back against her desk with her arms crossed and a smug smile on her face. "The clock is ticking, Thompson." Thompson took a deep breath and started writing. His hand moved with increasing confidence, filling the board with a series of steps, substitutions, and calculations. As his classmates watched him, the laughter turned to confused murmurs. "Work with a level of accuracy that surprises me." "What is he doing? It can't be right," said another student. Thompson kept working slowly, losing himself in the problem. When he did math, the pain in his back went away, the classroom went away, and the judgment of others went away. There was only the beautiful dance of numbers and symbols, a language that made perfect sense to him. 3 minutes later, he circled his final answer twice and turned to face the teacher. The stunned silence was only broken when Veronica jumped up from her desk and walked over to the board. She looked over his work quickly, her face changing, from shock to confusion to disbelief. This is, she stuttered, looking over his answer again. Thompson stood still, waiting. He knew his answer was right. Veronica's face hardened. "Where did you copy this from, Thompson? Did you memorize?" "This," she asked in a sharp, accusatory voice. "From where? Is this a joke?" "No, ma'am," Thompson said softly. "I just solved it." "Impossible," Veronica said. "You could not solve this problem at all. You're barely passing my regular 8th grade math class." "But I did solve it," Thompson insisted, his voice getting a little stronger. "The integration requires substitution, and then enough." Veronica cut him off. "I don't know how you're trying to pull this off," Thompson protested with a rare sense of defiance. "I'm not cheating. That's the right answer. If you check, are you telling me how to do my job?" Veronica's face turned red as she snatched the marker from Thompson's hand and scribbled all over his work, erasing the beautiful equations he'd written. She then grabbed Thompson's solution paper out of his hands and tore it in half in one shocking motion. Thompson was putting his things away while his classmates looked at him in shock. Zach had been picking on Thompson for months, but now he looked at him with something new in his eyes, confusion and maybe the first hint of respect. But Ms. Maxwell spoke up from the back of the room. It was Aisha, a shy girl who rarely spoke up. What if Thompson did solve it correctly? Veronica's cold stare made me feel sick. No more talking. Thompson was out. He walked toward the door with his head held high, even though his hands were shaking. Behind him, the torn pieces of his solution fell to the floor, physical proof of a truth that Veronica Maxwell refused to accept. Thompson sat alone on the hard wooden bench outside Principal Williams's office, holding his backpack tight against his chest like a shield. The office secretary looked at him every once in a while, with a mix of pity and anger in her eyes. He had been waiting here before, but this wasn't like any other time. Inside the office, Veronica Maxwell's voice rose and fell in angry accusation. Through the frosted glass door, Thompson could see her shadow making a strong gesture. This was a clear case of disobeying orders and cheating in school, as Veronica's voice carried through the door. He refused to sit down when told, interrupted my class, and then came up with a solution to a complicated problem that he couldn't solve. Possible have solved honestly. Are you sure he cheated? Absolutely sure? Principal Williams asked in a louder voice. Veronica answered right away. Thompson had a C- grade in my class all year, and now he's doing college-level calculus. That's not possible. He must have memorized it or been carrying the answer around with him. Thompson closed his eyes and wished he could disappear. Ms. Maxwell had always picked on him, but this time it was different. This time he'd done something wrong. The door suddenly opened and Principal Williams walked in. He was a tall man with a graying head and eyes that were always tired. "Come in, Thompson," he said flatly. Thompson walked into the office, making sure to stand straight even though moving hurt his lower back. Maxwell sat primly in one of the visitor chairs, her lips pressed into a thin line of disapproval. Ms. Maxwell told me what took place. Williams, the principal, began, taking a seat at his desk. "What do you want to say?" Smith took a deep breath. "I wasn't dishonest, sir. I did a good job solving the problem." Veronica laughed out loud. "That is ridiculous. You've never shown that." "You are good at math," Thompson said in a low voice. "Not in class. But I've been learning hard math by myself for almost a year. A story that makes sense." Before the director could answer, Veronica spoke up. "Next, I guess you'll tell us you're also a NASA scientist." In secret, Principal Williams put up his hand to stop her. "Thompson, why would you not sit down in class?" Thompson thought for a moment, and his eyes kept going to Ms. Maxwell. "Please tell the truth," Principal Williams asked. Thompson said in a voice that was hard to hear, "My back hurts. It's last week. When? What?" Principal Williams put his chin up. Thompson looked Ms. Maxwell in the eyes, and it was clear that they were warning her. He finished weakly. "I fell," and then looked down at the floor. Veronica spoke up and said, "He's lying," smoothly. This is clearly a long story to explain away his annoying behavior. First refusing to sit down and now this cheating thing. All of it is meant to get your attention. Principal Williams looked at Thompson for a very long time. "Thompson, Ms. Maxwell has been teaching math for more than 20 years. She is one of our teachers with the most knowledge. I'm likely to believe her if she says the problem was too big for you to handle." He felt something inside him break. He had spent months. He spent hours hunched over borrowed textbooks and free online classes, but it didn't help because no one believed in him. He said, "I solved it," but his voice was shaking. Veronica laughed in a rude way and said, "I can solve another one if you want." "Any calculus problem?" It's getting old watching this show. 2 days in jail for disobeying the teacher and making a disturbance in class. Principal Williams decided, while she was already looking for a punishment slip, take this as a warning. About cheating in school? Thompson saw Ms. Maxwell's happy smile as the director wrote the detention notice. Like always, she won again. Thompson had just been given his punishment slip by Principal Williams when they heard a soft knock. When the door opened, Miss Carter, the science teacher, walked in. She was a younger woman with bright eyes and a constant desire to learn, which made her popular with the kids. She looked at all three of them and said, "Sorry to interrupt, but I was let Thompson know I was here." She looked at Thompson with clear worry in her eyes. "Everything okay?" Principal Williams or Veronica asked. Before they could answer, Miss Carter saw that Thompson had a detention slip in his hand. "What took place?" "It's just a matter of discipline, Diana," Veronica said in a rude way. "There is nothing that the science department needs to know." Miss Carter made a face. "To be honest, I do care if it includes one of my best students." "The best student?" Veronica made a face. "Thompson Jr., yes." Miss Carter said, strong. Thompson. Principal Williams was the one she saw. What is it that he is being punished for? Principal Williams made a funny noise with his throat. He caused trouble in class, according to Ms. Maxwell, and then he tried to cheat on a math problem she gave him to teach him something. Miss Carter's eyes got bigger. How about calculus? You think he lied? She turned to look at Thompson. Does it have anything to do with your project for the science fair last spring? Thompson gave a small nod, and for the first time since entering, hope lit up in his eyes. The office of the president. What project for the science fair? Principal Williams asked with a frown. She smiled. Ms. Carter, Thompson's project was to use math to describe how plants grow. Overall, it came in third, but it won first place in the math area. Differential equations were in it, which most high school students would find hard to solve. Veronica's mouth opened a little, but she didn't say anything. Ms. Carter went on. I found out about Thompson's math skills last year. He was using high-tech. There were formulas in his lab papers that weren't part of our lessons. He showed me some of his own work when I asked him about it. She turned to look at Thompson. Those papers are still with you, right? Thompson gave another confident nod. That's not possible. Veronica finally did it. He's barely getting by in my class. Miss Carter told him straight out that your class bores him. Veronica, I'm sorry, but Thompson is working at a much higher level than what you teach. Principal? Williams seemed to be unsure of, why did no one tell me about this before? Carter told me that Thompson told her not to make a big deal out of it. He doesn't like being the center of attention. She told Thompson she was sorry, but I can't let it. You get in trouble for something you didn't do. The room had a very different feel to it now. Principal Williams looked serious, while Veronica's face had hardened into a look that was somewhere between shock and anger. This doesn't explain it yet. Veronica insisted on his refusal to follow basic classroom rules. Miss Carter carefully said, yeah, I'd like to know more about that too. Thompson, you said your back hurts. The office of the headmaster had become too quiet to be comfortable. Thompson moved his weight, which made him wiggle a little. Ms. Carter noticed right away. Thompson, could you please show us? Her question was soft. Veronica stood up quickly. This makes no sense. We're wasting time on theater. Principal Williams raised his hand to ask everyone to be quiet, and his face looked serious. Thompson, could you please show us what Miss Carter means? Thompson reluctantly lifted the back of his shirt just enough to show several angry red welts on his lower back. These were clearly the marks of a ruler or a similar tool. Miss Carter let out a soft gasp. His face turned dark as he got up from his chair. Who did this to you, son? He asked, but his eyes had already moved to Veronica, whose face he was looking at had lost all of its color. I fell, Thompson said over and over, quickly dropping his shirt. Thompson, Miss Carter said softly, no one gets marks like that from falling. Veronica raised her voice. It's clear he's trying to take the focus off of his behavior. Those marks could have come from anywhere his house, a fight with another student for all we know. Principal Williams' jaw tightened. Ms. Maxwell, that's enough. He looked at Thompson and asked, was this done to you at school? Thompson just stared at the floor in silence. Miss Carter told him, tell the truth. It's not disrespectful. Last week, Thompson finally whispered, I couldn't solve a problem fast enough at the board. The news filled the room like poison. Principal Williams's expression was thunderous as he turned to Veronica, who had already started gathering her. This meeting is clearly no longer productive, Veronica said stiffly. These claims have no proof. Principal Williams told Ms. Maxwell, sit down, we're not done yet. He then turned back to Thompson and Miss Carter and said, this is a serious matter that will need a formal investigation. But first, he thought about things as he tapped his fingers on the desk. First, I think we should talk about the school problem that's coming up. Thompson, do you really think you can figure out hard math problems? Yes, sir, Thompson responded in a quiet way. After that, I suggest a test, Principal Williams told everyone. A fair test of Thompson's math skills that was done under close watch to rule out any chance of cheating. Veronica's eyes got very dark. Okay, I'll make a good test right away, she said. Actually, Miss Carter replied, given the circumstances, perhaps it would be better if the test were prepared by someone else. Are you questioning my professional integrity? Veronica was angry. I think we should get rid of any idea of bias, Miss Carter responded in a calm voice. Principal Williams nodded so that everyone could understand. Ms. Maxwell, you will make the test, but I will look it over first to make sure it's fair. Thompson was his next move. Would tomorrow morning work for you? It gives you time to get ready, right? Thompson agreed, but there were signs of worry on his face. In the meantime, Principal Williams said, I'll be calling your parents about the marks on your body, and the detention is on hold until then. The results of this test, Veronica said again, her anger making her move stiffly. If you're going to let this act go on, I want it to be done right. The test should include problems from multiple grade levels all the way up to advanced placement calculus. If he's really the mathematical genius that Miss Carter says he is, he should have no trouble showing it, Principal Williams said firmly. But understand this, Ms. Maxwell. If Thompson passes this test, there will be serious conversations about how to teach him properly. As Thompson and Miss Carter left the office, he felt a strange mix of fear and relief. Tomorrow would tell if his secret abilities would finally be discovered, or if Veronica Maxwell would find a new way to punish him for being different. Through the style-open door, they could hear Veronica's voice rising in anger. This is completely unacceptable. Reputation is beyond reproach. Principal Williams's response was too quiet to hear, but his tone left no doubt. While Thompson walked home that afternoon, his mind was racing with formulas and theorems. He was confident in his skills, but doubt crept in. What if the test was set up to make him fail? What if Ms. Maxwell found a way to discredit him no matter how well he did? His phone rang with a text message at the usual time today. It was from Dr. James Roberts, professor of mathematics at the nearby university. For 6 months, Thompson had been working with Dr. Roberts at the Westside Community C Center's free tutoring program. While most university volunteers worked with groups of students, Dr. Roberts had seen Thompson working alone on a calculus textbook for first-year college students. That's some serious math for someone your age, Dr. Roberts had said, peering over Thompson's shoulder. Thompson tensed up, expecting to be made fun of, but the professor pulled up a, "Could you walk me through how you're approaching this integral?" They worked on problems together for an hour, with Dr. Roberts occasionally nodding to show approval or gently suggesting different ways to do things. At the end of the session, the professor offered to be Thompson's mentor twice a week. Have a gift, he told Thompson, and gifts need nurturing. At first, Thompson didn't want to tell his parents about the mentorship. They were afraid that if word got out, he would be bullied. But Dr. Roberts insisted on talking to them and telling them about the great chance their son had. Your boy has what mathematicians call elegant thinking, he told Thompson's parents in their simple living room. He doesn't just solve problems, he sees patterns and connections that most college students miss. Thompson's father sat up straighter, his proud face showing the weariness of age. Always knew he had something special inside him. His mother had asked about the time commitment and how it would affect Thompson's regular schoolwork. Dr. Roberts told them that Thompson could do well in both. As he looked at the text message, Thompson made up his mind. He typed back, "Need extra help. Tomorrow is the test. Important." The answer came right away. On time. Let's meet at the library. There were open books all around Thompson and Dr. Roberts as they sat at a corner table in the public library that night, books and notepads that are full of math. Yes, Dr. Roberts said, your teacher finally found out what you can do. His dark eyes sparkled behind wire-rimmed glasses. He was 58 years old, had salt and pepper hair, and kept his beard short. He carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who had spent their whole life learning. Not exactly, Thompson responded, talking about the embarrassing event. In class, and the unexpected result that followed, Dr. Roberts' face turned darker when Thompson brought up thigh bumps on his back. That's abuse, Thompson. Plain and simple, Thompson said in a low voice. If I'd said anything, though, no one would have believed me. She has taught there for a very long time. Dr. Roberts gave a sad, shaky head. We protect institutions, too. Often instead of the people they're supposed to help. He raised his voice and became more focused. Let's talk about this test. What you told me makes me think that Ms. Maxwell will try to make it as hard as she can. I'm scared. Thomas W. admitted it. What if I get cold? What if I forget the math? Dr. Roberts gently told him that math isn't about remembering formulas. It's about getting ideas and finding trends. Thompson, believe your gut. Your mind thinks in mathematical terms all the time. Ms. Maxwell can't take that away from you. They went over different ideas from basic math to differential calculus for the next 2 hours. Thompson didn't have any problems that Dr. Roberts drilled him on, but instead worked on improving his ability to understand ideas and solve problems. As they put their books away, Dr. Roberts thought for a moment. Thompson, would you like me to visit your school tomorrow? Not for the test itself. That's your chance to shine. But first, you need to help your director understand what you can do. Thompson was shocked when he looked up. Do you do that? Of course. Dr. Roberts gave a warm smile. That's what guides do. We do more than teach. We also speak out. For the first time since the Thompson felt very hopeful after what happened in the classroom. You wouldn't just have to show Ms. Maxwell she's wrong tomorrow. It would mean finally being seen for what he really was. Thomas got to school early the next morning. His stomach rumbled with worry. There were still not many people in the halls. Only a few teachers were getting ready for the day. Thompson was very grateful that Principal Williams had taken care of the test, so that it would not be in Ms. Maxwell's classroom but in a meeting room instead. As he got closer to Thief, saw Miss Carter waiting outside the meeting room. With a smile, she said, I thought you might need some moral support. How are you feeling? I asked. Nervous, Thompson answered. But ready? Miss Carter gave him a light squeeze on the shoulder. Do your best. That's all anyone can ask. Principal Williams and Veronica Maxwell were already sitting down in the meeting room. In the middle of the table was a sealed package. Good morning, Thompson, Principal Williams said in a proper tone. Before we start, I want to explain how this will work. This envelope contains math problems from 8th grade algebra to advanced placement calculus. Ms. Maxwell prepared them, and I've looked them over to make sure they're correct. You have 2 hours to complete as many as you can. Veronica sat with her arms crossed, and her face was blank. The problems get harder, and I don't expect you to solve them all. In fact, I'd be surprised if you got past the first, she said, Principal Williams said. I'll be watching to make sure there's no cheating. Ms. Maxwell and Ms. Carter will wait outside. Are there any questions before we start? Thompson shook his head and sat down at the table. Then let's go, he said. Principal Williams opened the envelope and put the test papers, pencils, and calculator in front of Thompson. You may begin. The two teachers then left the room. Thompson took a deep breath and looked at the first problem. It was a simple algebraic equation that he solved in seconds and moved on to the next. The first page had standard 8th grade problems that Thompson finished in less than 5 minutes. The second page had more difficult algebra and basic trigonometry, but Thompson was still well within his comfort zone. By the third page, the problems had moved up to pre-calculus. Thompson worked steadily, stopping every so often to check his work. When he got to the calculus problems on the last page, as he read page 4, he felt a sense of recognition. These were similar to exercises he had done with Dr. Roberts. Outside the conference room, Ms. Carter was reading a science journal, while Ms. Maxwell patiently paced him. This is a waste of time, Veronica said. He's probably just staring blankly at the paper right now. Why does his success threaten you so much? Ms. Carter asked, without looking up from her journal. Excuse me. You've been teaching for over 20 years, Veronica said. Finally looking at Veronica, he said, Your job is safe, and your reputation is well known. So why does the thought of this student doing well bother you so much? Before Veronica could answer, the door to the conference room opened, and Principal Williams walked out with an unreadable face. He's asking for more paper. He's already finished the whole test, he said. Veronica's face turned pale. That's impossible. It's been less than 40 minutes, he replied, getting more paper from a nearby cabinet. He's finished all the problems, and is now offering different solutions for some of them. When Principal Williams returned to the conference room, Veronica's calm fell apart. He must have cheated in some way. Maybe he has a phone hidden. He was searched before entering. Miss Carter reminded her at your insistence. and Principal Williams hasn't left his side. At some point, Veronica, you'll have to admit that you might have been wrong. Inside the conference room, Thompson was in his element. His stress had gone away as he got lost in the beautiful language of mathematics. For each calculus problem, he offered multiple solutions and clearly explained his reasoning in neat, precise handwriting. When he finally put down his pencil, almost an hour early, he felt a strange sense of peace. He had done his best, and the truth about his abilities was written down. It's impossible to erase or change. I'll make copies of the test for Ms. Maxwell and Miss Carter to look over on their own, and we'll meet again at lunch to talk about the results. As Thompson left the conference room, he saw some students watching him with interest from down the hall. Word had gotten around about the special test, and students had been talking about him in class all morning. For once, Thompson didn't mind the attention. It was the first time in his academic life that no one had noticed him. When Thompson walked into Principal Williams's office at precisely 12:30, the tension was palpable. Ms. Maxwell sat rigidly in one chair, holding a copy of Thompson's test in her lap and holding back tears. Miss Carter sat in another chair and nodded encouragingly. At Thompson, Principal Williams pointed to the empty chair and said, "Please sit down, Thompson." Thompson hesitated, his back arched. "I've set up a cushion," Principal Williams said, pointing to the soft pillow on the chair. Thompson didn't miss this small acknowledgement of his hurt. He sat carefully, thankful for the care. Principal Williams began, "I've gone over your test again, as have Ms. Maxwell and Ms. Carter. You want to say something before we talk about the results?" He took a quick look at Ms. Maxwell, whose lips were pursed into a thin line. "No, sir," he said in a quiet voice. The work speaks for itself." "That's right," Principal Williams agreed as he picked up his test. "You not only got every question right, but you also gave more than one way to solve the harder tasks. Would you share your opinion?" Miss Carter asked as she leaned forward. Thompson's work shows that he not only knows how to do things, but also has a deep understanding of what they mean. When he comes up with new ways to solve calculus questions, it shows a level of creativity and mathematical intuition that isn't often seen at the higher level. "And you, Ms. Maxwell?" Principal Williams asked you to do the evaluation. Veronica blew her nose. "The parts on simple algebra and trigonometry are right," she reluctantly agreed. "But I'm still not sure about the harder parts. In a scientific sense, the answers are correct." But what exactly?" Miss Carter spoke up. "You were the one with the problems. The testing setting was managed, and Thompson came up with perfect answers by working through them clearly, step by step. What possible excuse could there be? They must have had help," Veronica declared, her voice rising a bit. "These are college-level approaches. No 13-year-old could do them," she said. But then the doorbell rang. Principal Williams frowned at the interruption and called out, "Come in." When the door opened, a guy with wire-rimmed glasses and a well-groomed sultan pepper beard walked in. Thompson's face lit up when he saw it. He yelled, "Dr. Roberts." Dr. Roberts said, "I'm sorry for the interruption. I'm James Roberts, a professor of mathematics at State University. I know you're talking about Thompson's math skills, and I thought I might be able to give you some background." Principal Williams looked confused and pointed to an unoccupied chair. "Dr. Roberts, please come with us. What do you have to do with this situation?" "I've been Thompson's mentor for the past 6 months," Dr. Roberts said as he sat down. "He may be the most naturally talented young scientist I've met in my 30 years as a teacher." The look on Veronica's face changed from doubt to shock. "Do you really think that a college professor has been teaching an 8th grader in secret? Not giving help?" Dr. Roberts fixed it. "Mentoring. This is very different from that. Tutoring means helping with homework. Thompson doesn't need help getting better. To develop his amazing ability, he needs advanced material and help. We met at the neighborhood center. Thompson also said Dr. Roberts saw me working on calculus problems and offered to help." Principal Williams leaned back in his chair, taking in this new information. "Dr. Roberts," he asked, "would you be willing to look over Thompson's test and give us your professional opinion?" "Of course," Dr. Roberts replied, taking the copy Principal Williams handed him. As he read it, he became more and more pleased. "Excellent work, Thompson," he murmured. especially your solution to problem 17. Very elegant approach." The teacher looked up at him and said, "There's no doubt in my mind that Thompson solved these problems independently. His work shows the same unique approach I've seen in our sessions together." He also said, "In fact, I'd estimate his mathematical understanding is roughly equivalent to that of a second-year undergraduate mathematics major." Veronica made a sound of shock. "This is ridiculous. Yesterday he was just another student, and today we're supposed to believe he's some kind of DR." Robert said firmly that he was never just another student. He was a gifted young man whose abilities went unnoticed and, worse, were actively ignored by an educational system that should have fostered them. There was a moment of silence, until Principal Williams spoke. "I believe we have sufficient evidence to conclude that Thompson's mathematical abilities are indeed exceptional, and that his solution to Ms. Maxwell's classroom challenge yesterday was legitimate," he said, turning to Thompson. "I believe you. As an explanation for not believing you at first, I say that the school has failed you in this matter, and I'm truly sorry." For Thompson, those words meant more than any praise. He nodded and blinked back tears. "What happens now?" "What is everyone's question?" Ms. Carter asked. Principal Williams straightened up in his chair. "First, we need to make a good educational plan for Thompson that challenges him at his level. Actual amount of skill. Second," he looked at Veronica, who was now very still, "we need to talk about the real claims of physical punishment." Veronica said every week that those marks could have come from anywhere. "There's no proof." Principal Williams made it clear that there would be a probe. "I'm also going to talk to Thompson's parents this afternoon." He went back to Thompson and Dr. Roberts. "Thanks for waiting through this. Dr. Roberts, would you buy her? You ready to keep working with our school to help Thompson grow?" "It would be an honor," Dr. Roberts responded warmly. As they left the office, Veronica stayed behind. Her carefully built world started to fall apart around her. Thompson is very good at math, and word of it spread quickly through Westside Middle School. The next morning, students who had not paid attention to him before began to stare as he walked through the halls. Some people came up with interesting questions, while others like Zach said awkward sorry for what they had done in the past. "Do you really know how to do college math?" During lunch, Zach asked as he slid onto the bench next to Thompson. "It's being talked about by everyone." Thompson was about to answer when 3 more kids joined them at the table. "Never had that ever happened before," one girl said. "He didn't believe me when I told him about you, so he sent this problem." She pushed a notebook toward Thompson. He said, "It's what it says." Thompson took a quick look at it and smiled. "It's a partial differential equation," he said. "Not that hard, really." He picked up a pencil and started working through the solution, showing and explaining each step as more and more students watched in awe. Meanwhile, in the school's administrative wing, Thompson's parents were having a more serious conversation with Principal Williams. Their faces showed a mix of anger and determination as they sat across from each other. Looked at pictures of their son's injuries taken by the school nurse. "We trusted this school with our son," Mr. Thompson said, his voice tense with anger that he was trying to control. "We worked extra shifts to live in this district because the schools were supposed to be better. This is how our boy was treated," Mrs. Thompson said, wiping away a tear. "He never told us why he didn't want to go to school all those times. We thought he was acting." "I understand your anger," Principal Williams said in a serious tone, "and you have every right to it. We've already started a formal investigation, and Ms. Maxwell has been put on administrative leave until the outcome," Mr. Thompson insisted. "She hit our child multiple times and then tried to shame him when he showed what he could do. Right. Also making changes to our policies right away," as Principal Williams told them. There would be strict rules against any kind of physical punishment, and all disciplinary actions would have to be reported. "But most importantly, we're setting up a proper academic plan for Thompson," he said, sliding a folder across the desk. "Doctor, this plan was written with help from Roberts. It includes advanced math classes at the high school 3 mornings week, continuing to work with Dr. Roberts as a mentor and changing the work he does in his normal classes. Classes to help him use his skills more effectively." Mrs. Thompson opened the folder and looked through it quickly. Principal Williams told the parents, "This is more than we ever thought was possible for him. Your son has amazing skills, Our school didn't see or foster the gifts that we had. I'm determined to make sure that doesn't happen again. Anyone else in the class? Not even Thompson? While the meeting went on, Veronica Maxwell sat in her empty apartment by herself and looked at the official notice of investigation that was on her coffee table. I've been a teacher for 27 years and have a perfect record. Now this. The carefully crafted image she had kept up of the respected teacher and authority figure was falling apart because of what she had done. That morning, her phone rang 5 times. Perhaps another coworker was calling to show shock, or, even worse, to offer quiet support in a way that admitted wrongdoing while trying to downplay it. She didn't care. The truth was that Veronica had known Thompson was smart from the starting. It had scared her and made her feel unsafe. In her class, being smart was supposed to come from years of hard work and respecting the teacher, not from being a quiet boy from a working-class family who sometimes missed homework because his parents couldn't help him. A knock at the door woke her up from her thoughts. When she opened it, Dr. Robert was standing in the hallway with a sad face. She said, "Dr. Roberts," in a stiff voice. "I get it if you've come to brag." He gently cut him off. "Could I please come in?" She reluctantly moved to the side. Dr. Roberts walked in and turned down her automatic offer of coffee. He sat down on her couch and said, "I've been teaching for more than 30 years. I've seen a lot of kids. Some people struggle, some do well. But only a very small number have something truly amazing. This is one of those rare students, Thompson. So, everyone keeps telling me," Veronica snapped back. "What I don't get," Dr. Roberts said, as if she hadn't heard, "is why you felt that way. Were you scared by that? Why did you have to dim his light instead of making it shine?" Veronica's carefully kept calm finally broke, because he made fun. "Of everything I believe about school, I've worked hard for decades to get good at math. I got good at what I do after years of hard work and studying. Then this kid comes along and understands things naturally that I had to work hard to understand for years. Is that fair?" Dr. Robert looked at her carefully. "It's not about math. Please be fair, Ms. Maxwell. It's about telling the truth. And the truth is that some brains are naturally able to see connections and patterns that others have to work hard to see. That doesn't take away from your accomplishments or what you know." He leaned in. "It's not tragic that Thompson has a special talent. It's because you saw that gift as a threat instead of a chance for him, your other kids, and even yourself." Veronica put her hands over her face as Dr. Roberts' words hit her hands. After decades of being sure of everything, a hard fact is starting to break down. The school board meeting was supposed to start at 7 p.m. But by 6:15 p.m., the district conference room was already too full to hold anyone. There were a lot of parents, teachers, students, and people from the community sitting in the rows of chairs and standing along the walls. News reporters from the area had set up cameras in the back of the room. Thompson's story got out to the media, which made people angry and led to calls for responsibility. Thompson sat in the front row with his parents. He didn't like all the attention, but Dr. Roberts' presence next to him made him feel better. Behind them were Miss Carter and some teachers who had come to show their support. At exactly 7 o'clock, the 5 school board members walked in and sat down at the high table in the front of the room. Meeting started with a stern look from Board President Eleanor Washington, who has worked in schools for decades. "The plans for tonight have been changed. She said that they would look into the serious accusations that have been made against Westside Middle School. Principal Williams will speak first, then the public will have a chance to say what they think. Finally, the board will make its choices about punishments and policy changes." Principal Williams walked up to the stage with a serious look on his face. "Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the board. What I'm going to say tonight is very upsetting, but it's important for healing and being honest." He then went on to describe in detail what happened in Thompson's case from the shame in school. The discovery of physical abuse and the discovery of Thompson's amazing math skills. Worst of all, Principal Williams said, was that our system failed to protect a student from being mistreated and failed to identify a student's exceptional ability. Both mistakes need to be fixed right away and completely. As Principal Williams went back to his place, there was a murmur in the crowd. Then, Board President Washington asked everyone to speak. The father of Thompson was the first person to speak, kept his voice calm, even though he was clearly upset. My son went through pain and shame in quiet because he didn't think adults would believe him over a teacher. That isn't just the fault of one teacher, shows that we don't trust our whole school system. The next speaker, Ms. Carter, stressed the need for better ways to find and help students with special needs. Several parents then spoke out, saying they were angry and wanting answers. What a surprise. Then Zach went up to the microphone. We are both in Ms. Maxwell's class. He started out tense. He used to laugh when she picked on him because I thought that was how teachers kept things in check. I feel bad about it now. He looked at Thompson and said sorry. Anyone could see that she was after him, even kids like me. So why couldn't adults? His honest question hung in the air, accusing not only Veronica Maxwell, but also the society that let her act that way. After almost an hour of Board President Washington called for order after the statements. We've heard your worries and agree with them. The following choices were made after a lot of discussion by the board. As she went on, the room went quiet. First, the board voted unanimously to fire Ms. Veronica Maxwell right away, based on the evidence given, which included written reports of physical injuries to a student, statements from witnesses, and Ms. Maxwell's own admissions during the investigation, are also telling the state licensing board about this case and suggesting that her teaching license be taken away. The president raised his hand and quickly stopped the cheers from the whole room. But responsibility can't end with one teacher. So, the board is making the following changes that affect the whole area. All staff must be trained on how to spot and report potential abuse. There will be no tolerance for any kind of physical discipline. There will also be new ways to find and report abuse, helping kids who are smarter than their peers and giving them a way to safely report problems without being identified. She looked at Thompson and his parents straight on. On behalf of the whole school district, I want to say we're sorry for what happened to Thompson and promise that it will never happen again. As the meeting ended, Thompson was mobbed by students, parents and teachers who wanted to show their support and admiration. There was too much attention, but for the first time, it wasn't bad notice. These people didn't see him as a problem that needed to be dealt with. They saw him for what he really was. In the late evening, Thompson's mother reached back and squeezed his hand as they drove home. I'm really proud of you, kid. Not just because you were smart. I've always thought you were smart. I admire your bravery. Thompson admits, I wasn't very brave. I never said anything about what was going on, his father told him, but you never gave up either. He looked in the rearview mirror. Even when people tried to stop you, you kept learning and growing. Kind of bravery changes lives. Thompson smiled a little as he watched the streets of his area go by. There would be new tasks, harder classes, higher expectations, and the strange feeling of being seen and valued tomorrow. But tonight, in the comfort of his parents' pride, he let himself just feel the relief of finally telling the truth. Agreed. Upon 3 months after the meeting of the school board, Westside Middle School had changed in deep and subtle ways. New anti-bullying posters with different kinds of faces and messages about acceptance and respect were all over the halls. A new program for students with special talents found 17 students with advanced skills in math, music, language, and other subjects. The most important change, though, was in the way the school worked. When teachers used to turn a blind eye to bad behavior, they now actively stepped in. Students who had been quiet about unfair treatment before felt like they had the power to speak out. And in the faculty lounge, people were no longer talking about difficult kids, but instead how to better help and engage them. Thompson was now taking advanced math classes at the high school 3 mornings a week. He had become a quiet star, and not just because he was good at math. He was also the one who made things happen. The initial discomfort of being seen had slowly turned into cautious confidence as he learned that telling his story had helped other people. That Tuesday afternoon, Thompson was sitting in the school library with a small group of 6th and 7th graders. What started out as a lighthearted question about homework turned into an unplanned lesson. That's why Thompson said, drawing a picture on a piece of paper. There's always a trend to these word problems if you look closely. The only thing left is to choose the right tongue. Change words to numbers. A girl in 6th grade called Amara said, "That makes so much sense." Her eyes lit up with understanding. In no way did Miss Collins explain it that way. Thompson had a smile. People can understand things in different ways. This way might make more sense to you. Miss Carter was proud as she watched the fun from a table nearby. When the last bell rang and the younger kids left, she went up to Thompson. She said, "You're quite the teacher. You're good at explaining complicated ideas in simple terms." Thompson put his books back down, feeling a little embarrassed by the compliment. "I remember what it was like to be lost and no one paying attention." Miss Carter responded that empathy makes all the difference. "Have you thought more about the math class at the university that runs during the summer? Dr. Roberts said you've been on the fence about applying." Thompson gave a nod. "They told me I could go. I just thought about it." "Really? I'm still getting used to people seeing me." Seeing me, it made sense to Ms. Carter. For a child who had spent years hiding to avoid bad attention, being in the spotlight for good could be just as confusing. She told her, "Go at your own pace. Just don't let old fears stop you from trying new things." As they left the library, they walked by Venus Maxwell's old classroom. It was now Mr. Diaz's. A young teacher whose energy and open-minded way of teaching had quickly won over those who saw it, made him popular with the other kids. Thompson could see Mr. Diaz moving around the room instead of standing in charge at the front of the room through the open door as he animatedly demonstrated an idea. There were raised hands and excited sounds from the students. It couldn't have been more different from Ms. Maxwell's lessons, where there was tense silence. Some good came from everything that happened. Thompson quietly watched. "Because you were brave," Miss Carter told him. Outside in the Thompson saw his dad's truck waiting in the pickup lane in the spring sunshine. Since the meeting with the school board, Thompson's parents have changed their work schedules so that they can be at more school events and programs. "See you tomorrow, Miss Carter," Thompson waved. "Don't forget that Thursday night at the board meeting, the science club will give a talk." She asked him to come back. Thompson walked past a group of 8th schoolers who nodded as he went to his dad's truck. Meeting. The same students who had ignored or made fun of him months before. It was hard to believe that he was standing in Ms. Maxwell's classroom, back aching and answering a calculus problem that was meant to make him look bad. Not only for him, but for everyone at school. That day really changed things. One teacher's mean behavior toward a student was meant to put them down. But it started a movement to see and celebrate the unique potential in every child. Thompson got into his dad's truck right away. He was excited to talk about the math he and Dr. Roberts had been working on. If we don't see the potential in every child, we hurt more than just that one. As they drove away from Westside Middle School, the afternoon sun shone on a new sign that had just been put up near the entrance. It said, "Every student deserves to be seen, heard, and valued for who they truly are. We take away the special gifts of everyone in our community." Thompson's story shows that there are many ways to be brilliant, shapes, and from places you wouldn't expect. Makes us think about what we think we know. Speak up for people who can't speak for themselves. And create learning environments where all kids can do well. If you felt something from this story, please like this movie and follow our channel. With your help, we can keep spreading these important themes of bravery, fairness, and change. Let's make the world a place where no child's light is ever dimmed by hate or abuse.